Hey card makers, I'm Trisha Morris with Club Scrap and welcome to my card make and take. If we had the ability to really be at an actual expo right now and you were walking by my booth, I would give you the opportunity to have a seat at my table and do a make and take for free. And so that's what I'm doing for you today as well. To complete our make and take together, if you're at home, all you really need to have are 4 sheets of paper. You can actually use as many sheets as you like, but 4 sheets is certainly the minimum. And a nice 12-inch guillotine trimmer. I do love this one by Fiskars that we carry here at Club Scrap. And I'm going to keep myself organized with the help of an accordion pocket file. And more on that later, but that'll just help me keep the pieces that I'm going to be trimming all together. I'm also using some stamps to finish my cards. These are from a set of stamps that we created called Turquoise. So this was from one of our monthly themed kits this year in 2020, the Turquoise kit. I'm also using 4 papers from the Turquoise collection, and I'm following along with a card formula that I designed just for you, just for this virtual expo. And there's a gather list on the formula, and that tells you that you basically just need 4 sheets of 12 by 12 paper in 4 different colors, and we will cut each sheet the same way by following the step-by-step instructions. I'll take you through the whole process. Now you'll notice right away there's this arrow on the diagram. What does that mean? Well, it has to do with the grain direction of the paper, and if you notice we have some score lines here. And if you've ever folded a card in half and had that fold be very crumpled and not very attractive, that's because you were folding against the grain, and I don't want you to have to do that. So I'm going to take my first sheet of paper and figure out the grain direction. Well, to do that, it's very easy, and you can't do it by looking at it. Simply grab the paper by an edge and study the behavior of the paper. Does it dip easily from side to side, or is it really stiff? Well, you don't really know unless you compare. So rotate the paper 1 turn and study its behavior. Now in this case, the paper's very stiff. It just wants to remain straight. If I do it from this end, the paper droops very easily. Therefore, if I want to follow the diagram, the arrow shows which way the paper should dip easily, and in this case, it's top to bottom. Drop it in the trimmer base, and I'm actually going to cut 2 papers at the same time. This trimmer is fully equipped to be able to do that. So I'm going to check my grain. That's pretty dippy. This is not. So dipping easily top to bottom, place it in my trimmer, stack those papers neatly, and let's go to it. I've got all of your step-by-step instructions here, but you just follow along with me and pause as needed. All right, our first cut is at 11.5 inches. And if you're not used to measuring, just take your time and pause liberally. So 11.5 inches, make sure your paper is flush with the top edge of the trimmer base. Stabilize before you cut and allow the paper to remain where it lands once you make that trim. Okay, now we're gonna slide this paper down to 8.25 and cut again. One more time, we're sliding down to 4.25. Okay, now I want you to rotate this entire piece and we'll trim it horizontally at 11.75 and 11. I'm going to add these papers to one of my pockets so I can keep them organized there while I do some more trimming. Here we have some wider, they're not very wide, but you know, we have some little pieces. We're going to save those. And my friends, these 2 guys, they're not used, and you can tell that by on the diagram there's an X placed right on the piece that becomes a scrap. Again, the scrap is really up to you. If you want to find a home for that, I'm sure you could. Now I'm going to pick up the next stack of like-sized papers. These currently measure 4 by 12. And I'm following now with step 3. So we'll cut at 6.75 and 4.25. Now, don't move anything. Take this piece of paper and rotate it 1 turn. So now it's technically vertical, and I want you to cut at 3. You can just take this and put it in one of the pockets to stay organized. And these 2 pieces are also going to be used, so I'll pocket those. Then you have this 2.5 by 4 rectangle. We'll trim that horizontally at 3. And let's put that in a pocket to get it organized. And once again, we've created some tolerably sized scraps. There's a pair of larger panels here. I'm just going to go ahead and put those in another pocket to keep them organized. And then finally, one more strip gets trimmed horizontally at 10. I'll also put this in a pocket Here we have another scrap, and then these long strips are not used, so don't worry about those. So that was 2 of the pieces required for trimming using this diagram. We only have 2 more to go. Let's check our grain direction. We've got this beautiful turquoise color and the white. Make sure it's dipping easily top to bottom. We'll put both in the trimmer and cut again. So the first measurement is 11.5, 8.25, and 4.25. Rotate and cut at 11.75 and 11. So now what I'm going to do is sort this into the same pocket as the other like-sized pieces, and again that just helps me stay organized. And we just added 2 more tiny little pieces to our scrap pile, and I'll pick up the next 2 pieces that measure 4 by 12. We're going to repeat that by cutting at 6.75 and 4.25. Rotate, cut at 3. We'll file this with its friends, and then we have some more friends. And then we have these rectangles. This is 2.5 by 4 right now. We'll cut horizontally at 3. I think those are right there. And these go to the scrap pile. We'll match these up with the mates. And now we have this remaining 3.25 by 12. Let's cut that horizontally at 10. And scraps. That's all that's left for the scraps. Okay, now it may seem a little bit weird, maybe backwards, because perhaps when you make a card you go, oh, I'll cut that base out of that size, and then I'll grab this out of another color, and then I'll grab that out of another color, and then in the end you have this huge pile of scraps, and nothing made any sense in the process. So here I'm just trying to intelligently put it all out there, so when you trim these 4 pieces of paper the same way, you interchange the colors and then make 4 beautiful cards with very little waste. The next thing I'm going to do is swap my paper trimmer for a score pal. So included in your instructions is the information about the scoring, and we will score the larger pieces that we have. So I'm just going to grab those. And one of the things that I've learned over time is that I can actually score 2 pieces of paper at the same time, because I've done it a lot. So if you are experienced with using a tool like this and feel confident, you just have to make sure you use the correct amount of pressure. So I'm going to score this at 5.5 inches, and then I'm going to flip this paper from bottom to top and score at 8.25. I'll repeat that for the second pair. So the first measurement again was 5.5. This flip is really important. You're just flipping, not rotating. And score at 8.25. Okay, those are going to make my card bases. Now I'm going to take the other narrower long pieces, and we will score at 4.5. And then flip and score at 7.25. We'll repeat that for the other pair. So that was 4.5, flip, 7.25. Okay, our scoring is done. The next step is to do what I call the deal. So what I'm going to do is kind of distribute one of each of all of my large card bases into one of 4 piles. So there, every color is represented. Next, I will take the other larger scored pieces. So in this case, it's teal, and then this beautiful red, a white, and the blue. Now in my accordion pocket file, I've sorted pieces by size. So I'll take the next largest panel. This one gets red, then blue, then teal, and white. Now I have a medium-sized panel. Looks like we go white, teal, blue, and red. And then we have another smaller panel. I think that's going to match these. So white, teal, blue, and red. This is like putting together a puzzle, and it's so fun. All right, now I have wide and narrow. So I'm going to take this red, blue, teal or turquoise, and white, and then I can nest something else onto these little guys if I want to. Okay, every piece from my file is gone and every card has a plan. So what I'm going to do is just assemble one, but all of the cards will be assembled the same exact way. Now the first thing that I would do is select stamps from my coordinating stamp set to figure out like what I want to be on each of these panels. And I went ahead and did that on my samples that I'm sharing with you. I selected this larger, really cool medallion image and this quote to fit right onto the front panel, and then another nice sentiment and image for the inside, and stamp those before installing them into the cards. But I hope you know how to stamp, but this is just one creative way to use the papers and the stamps that Club Scrap designs in order to make 4 pretty quick and easy cards. Now here's an important tip. The anatomy of a score line includes a bump or a divot, and you have one of each on this card base. It's really important that the bump of the score goes on the inside of the fold. So I'm just going to fold this card in half. Here's the bump, and the bump will end up on the inside of the card. And of course, I will still visually line up the edges as evenly as possible, and that score line makes the final fold very simple. Now here is another bump, and that needs to be on the inside of the fold. So I just take this edge, bring it up to the original fold, and I've got a nice, beautiful, crisp fold, no crumple, and that's because we paid attention to the grain direction. There's also another scored piece, and it's basically the same, except when we bury this bump, the paper will not fold exactly in half, and that's okay. Now we have another bump here, let's bury it. That does fold that portion in half. So our pieces are ready, with the exception of the stamping, which is optional. I'm going to nest this panel right into the middle here. So maybe I'll add a little adhesive and just I'm going to go ahead and get that done. And I'll center that in place right on the card base, keeping in mind that this wing is on the left. Okay, now on this other piece, I'll position it so that the mountain fold is in the middle and the valley fold's on the right. And I can nest a panel onto what will become the front. And then this piece, look at that, it fits perfectly right into that spot. How cool is that? Okay. Now over here on this side of the card, if I want, I can nest these 2 pieces together, which mine as well. And when I attach this nested strip to the left edge of the card, I know my tendency is to glue things that aren't quite level. I'm not sure if that's ever happened to you where you adhere something and it's not straight. I hate it when that happens. So I have my weapon. It's my 2x8 inch grid ruler that I always use for my card making. And I just want this to be literally 1/8 of an inch from the edge of my card. And so I have the ruler placed one square. That line is aligned with the edge of the card, and that way I can rest my piece with the adhesive on it against the ruler's edge, drop it down, and now I know it's exactly level and not veering downhill or uphill or crooked like I tend to do. Okay, lastly, this piece gets added to the card, and you have to be careful where you put the adhesive, because if you put it over the whole thing, you might end up with a postcard that doesn't open. We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to, while this piece is folded, apply adhesive to the visible areas. That should keep me pretty safe for where my adhesive goes. So while it's closed, but nothing in this area, or the card will lose its functionality, right? So I can go back in, and if you want, you could use the 0 center feature of my weapon. Maybe I'll just open this up for now so I can get this appropriately placed. And I'm going to go for 1/2 inch from the edge and from the top and bottom. Look at that. If I just rest it and drop it, and then I kind of tuck this in and lay it down, I know my panel is centered beautifully. Look at that cool card. Isn't that great? So with those simple and easy steps, I now have this functional card. It's so much fun. And the finished one, of course, was stamped. So I stamped that really cool gem image, the noise I would call it, that just adds this awesome texture to the strip. Mine is a double strip now because I realized I could save a scrap and incorporate it into the card. And you get not one, not two, not three, but 4 cards that work the same way, and every single color that you've trimmed is represented on the card in a really beautiful way. So what a fun way to use your time and your supplies to efficiently make some cards. Now, how does all of this card formula stuff work if you were to be a Club Scrap member? Well, it works much the same way, but just on a larger scale. Together, we were able to make these 4 cards out of 4 sheets of paper, but our monthly card kits include a lot more than that. Here's an example of a card kit. It has tons of 12 by 12 papers, ribbons, embellishments, and more. Plus, it comes with a very detailed instruction download. So what you can do is download the detailed information about how to transform all of this into the cards, but you can also watch a video tutorial with yours truly walking you through the process of assembling your cards every step of the way. That includes trimming all of the papers with the grain direction appropriately placed, trimming cut-aparts that help you complete your cards without having to do rubber stamping. So if you're not a stamper, not a problem. We include the artwork. And if you would rather stamp the elements for your cards, simply trim the artwork accordingly and flip the paper over to the plain side and stamp that. You've got your own stamped cards. So we just have wonderful options for card makers. And within that process, my goal is to always teach you some kind of a new or interactive card structure. Let me show you what I mean. Here are some examples of the cards we made with this turquoise collection. 4 in this size, 2 vertical and 2 horizontal. And then we made this really nifty tabletop card. I think it's called like an impossible card because it's hard to figure out how it was made. This red area is just literally 1 sheet of paper, really cleverly trimmed. We made several of those, 4 each actually. And then we also made 4 additional cards in just a simple single fold style. So we really have a lot of fun with our card making, and the membership for the card club is only $21.95 a month, and that even includes the envelopes required for your cards. And it's kind of like signing up for a workshop every month where you can make 12 cards very efficiently, plus learning and adding to your skill set along the way. Now you can see I use a pretty basic set of tools, and one of those again is that accordion pocket file. I actually have a starter kit for you to make one. Unfortunately, I don't sell these already made. I've made a ton of these for my workshops for people to use, but never enough to really put it out there to sell. But I did create a very helpful video tutorial so that you can make one of these for yourself to help you stay organized in both your card making and scrapbooking if you are a scrapbooker. This is the accordion pocket file starter kit, and it includes a video link to that tutorial, our awesome bookbinding glue, a needle tip applicator, all the goods that you need. And then we also have 2 additional ruler sizes. So I tend to use all 3 of these rulers in my crafting. The 2x8 I definitely love for card making, but the 8x8 and 3x14 are also wonderful for scrapbooking as well, and any kind of crafting actually. So I hope you give this card formula a try. It gives you a great insight into what it's like to be a Club Scrap card kit member. We'd love to have you here, and if you're interested in our page kits, we also have full tutorials and trimming diagrams to make our scrapbook pages as well. We never leave you wondering how it's all going to turn out. If you'd like to do a little bit of shopping, feel free to visit our website at clubscrap.com. And if you'd like free shipping, be sure to remember to enter the code EXPO now at checkout. Hope to see you soon.